What is going on, Pats Nation? You guys already know who it is. Patriots Global here, back with another video, and in this one, I want to talk about Patriots and Minicamp, and I want to talk about not one specific day, but I want to talk about Patriots Minicamp, Patriots 2022 Minicamp as a whole, and give you guys my winners and losers, guys who either stood out significantly in a positive way, or guys that just did not benefit from these 2 days of minicamp. Obviously, was supposed to be 3 days of minicamp, but that last day was canceled because, one, weather, but two, Belichick didn't reschedule because he said, you guys did so great so far this offseason, I'm going to give you a day off. But first off here, I want to start with arguably the biggest winner, the biggest standout, and probably the most surprising player so far this offseason. And obviously, with that being said, minicamp is going to be wide receiver Trey Nixon. Did not expect Trey Nixon to take this leap so far this offseason that he has. Now, with that being said, we do still have to wait and continue to see how Trey Nixon does perform. We have seen a lot of guys who do show out in OTAs, who do show out in minicamp, guys who even show out in training camp, sometimes even the preseason, and then they make the final roster, and then it just never transitions to the regular season or the postseason, and that is where it is most important. You know, we've seen guys like Maurice Harris come in and play really well throughout the offseason and then not even make the final roster because they fell off. We've seen guys like N'Keal Harry come in and play spectacular in the offseason and then never show up during the regular season. But Trey Nixon, a guy who was drafted just last year, the same year as Mac Jones, who was taken actually 227 spots after Mac Jones in the 7th round, Ernie Adams' final pick, and dear God, what a storyline that would be if Trey Nixon ends up becoming something, because again, he was Ernie Adams' final pick before stepping back. But Trey Nixon was given a lot of opportunities, specifically in minicamp, specifically day one. He really showed out day one and was given a lot more opportunities because Kendrick Bourne wasn't there the first day of mandatory minicamp. Now, it wasn't an excused absence. Whatever happened, it's fine. Kendrick Bourne did return for the second day, but with the absence of Kendrick Bourne, who's obviously one of the Patriots' top receivers and top offensive weapons for Mac Jones, it's really interesting that Trey Nixon was the guy who took those reps in the absence of one of the Patriots' starting receivers. He made the top play on both days of minicamp, so not even just the day Kendrick Bourne wasn't there, but even the day that Kendrick Bourne did return. One of those spectacular catches actually being really close coverage on Jonathan Jones, the Patriots' speedster slot cornerback. And he really pinned Trey Nixon down, potentially even a holding penalty that would have been called against him in a real game. And Trey Nixon was still able to reel the ball in one-handed. And a lot of people are going to say, too, Trey Nixon's probably going up against these scout team cornerbacks. He's running with the second or third team defense. But what's really interesting is that he's not. He's actually going up against the Patriots' starting secondary. Trey Nixon had been double-teamed in minicamp, actually being double-teamed by Devin McCourty and Jonathan Jones, and was still able to reel in passes from Mac Jones. From what I'm hearing, he looks a lot better with just his overall technique. He looks really good with his overall route running. I mean, I'm hearing day and night with his route running compared to what we saw last year around this time, and even at all from last offseason. But the fact that he's doing really, really well so far from what we've seen this offseason against press man coverage looks really, really good. The Patriots don't have much guys who can really play against press man coverage. That's been one of the real issues for these receivers for the Patriots at every position, wide receiver, running back, tight end, was being able to play against real press man coverage. And if Trey Nixon can be able to continue to do that, he can really strive against most of these wide receivers. Now, moving on to another player that I'm really, really excited to talk about. If, again, I had to rank these, I feel like I would put Trey Nixon first, but to talk about Mac Jones, he would be a close second. It's kind of hard not to put Mac Jones as number one, just because you're talking about your quarterback that's coming off his rookie year, a spectacular year, but is now making that year two leap. Can he make that year two leap and carry this Patriots offense on his back? That's going to be the real question. A lot of these quarterbacks that take that second year leap really start to struggle. They go from a great freshman season, great rookie season, They can't exactly vamp it up that second year, but Mac Jones is looking like he's looking to define those odds. I mean, Mac was putting on just an absolute show during 2 practices, and you can really see that he's working on that deep ball. A big thing about Mac Jones from his rookie season that we saw a lot of dinks and dunks, him being really careful with the ball. He took some shots down the field, especially as the season progressed, but you could see that he had a leash on him. You know, he knew that he was still fighting for that job. He wanted to look good in front of the fans, the media, the coaching staff, but now it's his job. There's nobody else that's going to take that job away from Mac Jones. This is his team. He is leading this team. He's leading this offense because he is QB1, which really puts him in a position where he's comfortable. He can push the ball downfield. He can kind of push his luck from time to time, and we're seeing that. We heard this offseason that he was really working on that deep ball. We saw some stints from time to time this past season with that potential of his deep ball, but it wasn't exactly honed in. A lot of times we saw ball placement kind of being at times, but also not exactly having the best accuracy when it came to the deep ball. But so far this offseason, we can tell that he's been working on that deep ball. He's been working with, I believe, Tom House, who works with a lot of the best veteran quarterbacks that you know and love throughout the NFL. And honestly, through these few practices, which again, not much competition, not real coverage from the defensive backs, at least compared to what you're going to get in a real game. But this wasn't dink and dunks. This wasn't the short to intermediate route. This was him flying the ball down the field, 30, 40, 50, 60 even yard passes down the field to guys like Devontae Parker, Nelson Aguilar, Trey Nixon. He was making a lot of high-level throws, putting these balls in really good position for his receivers, and specifically the deep ball, like I mentioned earlier. We knew that he could do it with the short to intermediate route. The question was going to be, can he do it from a deep standpoint, especially with a lot of these receivers the Patriots have being deep threats, us wanting to see bigger splash plays down the field. And now that Mac Jones has worked on that, he has the weapons to be able to do so. We could really see him take that leap forward. He showed nothing but consistency with these passes, too. There was a point where he completed just over 20 passes in a row. And again, he's making high-level throws. So very, very happy with what I've seen so far from Mac Jones. Him also being a guy that doesn't leave the field. Doesn't leave the field until everybody else is gone, and he's there for a good hour after practice. Now I want to continue here with the winners on this list. Rookie Jack Jones. I'm pleasantly surprised with what I have heard from Jack Jones so far. I've been pretty hard on Jack Jones. I wasn't exactly the biggest fan of Jack Jones. I know the Patriots met with him. I liked some of the ability he had. I did not love where the Patriots got him. Obviously as a 4th-round pick, he was projected 7th-round pick, and I had a lot of concerns about how he was going to translate to the NFL, especially with some of the issues he had just in college at Arizona State. Now, again, there's no pass rush. This isn't true football just yet. So that's going to be the true testament when true football comes along, when we take that next step into getting into preseason games and, of course, also training camp. But so far through OTAs and minicamp, Jack Jones has been rolling with the starting defense, not as a slot cornerback, where most projected him to be at the NFL level, but as a perimeter cornerback. With that being said, it's not like he's going to be coming in and he's going to be a number 1 cornerback, okay? He's not. Does he have the potential to in the future? Maybe, but that's a discussion for much later. But even if as a rookie he can come in and contribute as the Patriots CB2, CB3, I think that is very, very good for a rookie cornerback in Jack Jones, who, like I mentioned earlier, has been regularly running with the starting level defense as that perimeter corner. He's even been able to showcase some of those good ball hawking skills. He registered an interception, also registered a forced fumble, and even saw some action as a punt returner. We really, really needed Jack Jones to show out. If there was any player from this draft that I said needed to pop out year 1, it's ideally Jack Jones. If I had to pick one guy from this draft class and say, you're the guy that's going to pan out for us year 1, I would pick Jack Jones because the Patriots don't have a perimeter cornerback. They have a lot of undersized perimeter cornerbacks, but you don't have Stephon Gilmore. You don't have J.C. Jackson. You don't have your true number 1 cornerback. You don't have a lockdown cornerback anymore. You just have a lot of undersized outside perimeter guys and a lot of ideally slot guys playing on the outside, but Jack Jones could potentially give the Patriots some more versatility and some more depth there to feel comfortable at outside cornerback. Now, guys, real quick, I want to give a big shout out to the sponsor of this video, betonline.ag. Guys, our partners over at BetOnline, they continue to be the #1 source for all your sports betting needs and your sports info. You guys can find all the latest odds, news, and sports developments, including this year's NBA Finals, the NHL Hockey Conference Finals, Major League Baseball, fighting, and even next season's early NFL futures. Guys, BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and even more. All you guys have to do is head to their website or use your mobile device to sign up today, just using that promo code CLNS50, guys, to receive a 50, I repeat, a 50 half off welcome bonus on your first deposit. Again, using that promo code CLNS50. Bet online, where the game starts. Now, my last winner on this list is going to be Jonnu Smith. And now there were some other guys who did stand out from time to time, but this video could be so much longer if we're really nitpicking every guy that did a little bit good and a little bit bad. Again, you had to do some real good things to make this list in a positive way, or some real bad things to make this list. But my final guy is going to be tight end Jonnu Smith. I'm very, very happy with what I've seen so far from Jonnu Smith, a guy who didn't really participate in offseason programs, more specifically OTAs, this past year when he was recently signed, because he just had a kid. But this year, he's all in it, and this really could be exactly what Jonnu Smith needed to really divulge himself into this Patriot scheme, system, and playbook. And this really could be a season where we start to see a lot of these two tight end sets a lot more utilized. He was actively involved day in and day out, not just in minicamp, but again, also OTAs. And he was really the top tight end for the Patriots throughout these practices so far, because Hunter Henry has been dealing with an injury and has been very, very limited. He made a lot of really impressive catches between the 2 days we saw specifically from minicamp. Some really good plays in coverage, some diving plays. He's been super, super hype with kind of how he's progressed, which has really hyped up the offense in general. And of course, as you know, mentally, you feel good, you play good, you are good. So I think, Jonnu Smith very, very well could and should have a much, much better 2022 season compared to that 2021 season. But where there are important players that we talk about with these winners, there are also important players to talk about when it comes to losers. And unfortunately, Mr. N'Keal Harry is back on my loser list, as he should be. As we all know, N'Keal Harry decided not to participate in optional OTAs, but we did see him out there for mandatory minicamp, which honestly was slightly surprising. But I mean, at the same time, it is still very surprising he's somehow still on this roster. Now, he did finally join his teammates again after he didn't participate in any of these offseason workouts so far, and he played close to nothing when it comes to a role on this Patriots offense. He didn't roll with the starters. Like I mentioned, Kendrick Bourne, he wasn't there the first day. N'Keal Harry wasn't the guy who rolled in as a former first-round pick. Again, that was Trey Nixon. But N'Keal Harry didn't even play with the second-team offense. Now, he played with the third-team offense, guys. He wasn't playing with Mac Jones. He wasn't playing with he wasn't playing with veteran quarterback Brian Hoyer. He got one snap with Brian Hoyer throughout 2 days of mandatory minicamp. He was playing with the third-string receivers, guys like Malcolm Perry, Dalton Keene, and, of course, rookie quarterback Bailey Zappi. As a former first-round pick, a guy that we had such high hopes for, he's literally out there playing with the scout team offense. And yet he still doesn't look nearly as good as some of the players we see on the scout team offense. If that does not indicate that N'Keal Harry is finally about to be out of here, I just do not know what is. Unfortunately, though, I do also think that is bringing any stock that N'Keal Harry had left down. Now, next up, I'm going to talk about one that, you could take as a winner, you could take as a loser, but from my own personal standpoint and from what I'm hearing, I'm going to just put him on the losers list for right now, and that's Isaiah Wynn. Look, Isaiah Wynn came back That's great. He was a loser for OTA's winners and losers because he just didn't show up at all after a bad start to the 2021 season and just a very inconsistent 2021 season. It was very odd to not see him out there every opportunity he can get, especially with a guy that is in contract year. But while he wasn't there in OTAs, we saw Trent Brown, the Patriots starting right tackle, who was signed to a 2-year contract extension this offseason, go ahead and switch over to the left side as starting left tackle. We said, let's see how that continues to develop once Isaiah Wynn is back. He could just be playing there, as a body to put there. But no. Isaiah Wynn comes back. Trent Brown is still playing at starting left tackle, and Isaiah Wynn is pushed over to right tackle. Guys, this is where you're setting your foundation. Trent Brown has been there the entirety of this offseason, minus, if he had an excused absence or was dealing with an injury. The Patriots are trying to build continuity at this point. They're trying to build what this offense is going to look like for the 2022 season, for the guys who are new, for the new coaching staff, for this new potential offensive scheme, for the new additions, the rookies. I don't see this being something that gets switched in training camp or halfway through the offseason. I firmly believe that this is the offensive line we're going to see. We're going to see Trent Brown at starting left tackle. You're going to see Cole Strange at left guard, David Andrews at center, and then Michael Onwenu at right guard. And if Isaiah Wynn is still around, he's going to be your right tackle, which does not bode well for him in a contract year because left tackles are much more important. They get paid a lot more money. But also, the Patriots are now paying a right tackle, $10, $15 million? Just unbelievable. Unbelievable for a right tackle. If Trent Brown does end up playing right tackle, if Isaiah Wynn does end up playing right tackle for the Patriots, I do think that is going to bring his stock down for what he could make in the open market at the end of this season. Left tackles easily make better money than right tackles do. And this isn't something we're used to seeing Isaiah Wynn play. I think the only time we saw him play right tackle was his rookie offseason and when he played just slightly against the Eagles in the preseason before getting injured. Other than that, he has always been a starting left tackle. So that could either mean the Patriots think that he'll best be utilized as a right tackle, and at the end of the season they just find a new right tackle, which is a whole lot easier than finding a left tackle, or they're moving him to right tackle for now with the idea of potentially trading him at some point, and then you can easily plug in Andrew Stuber, Justin Herron. You can easily find a replacement at right tackle versus finding a replacement at left tackle. And then my last loser on this list is going to be tight end Dalton Keene. Yes, Dalton Keene is still somehow on this roster. There really is low-key a race for tight end 3. I don't see the Patriots keeping 4 tight ends. I think they'll have, 1 or 2, probably 2 on the practice squad, especially if they're going to run 2 tight end sets a lot in the offensive scheme for this upcoming season. But there's going to be 3 tight ends on this active roster in the 53-man roster. Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith. That's 2 right there who are absolute locks. But then you have the 2020 draft where you had Dalton Keene and Devin Asiasi both drafted in the 3rd round. Now, that rookie season in 2020 was really split between both of those guys. But this past season, Dalton Keene really was on IR the entire time. We have not seen anything from Dalton Keene at all in 2021 or really even last offseason. And now is his chance to show that he can be utilized either in the backfield as a big power back or as a fullback, although the Patriots aren't necessarily using one, or even as a tight end at this point. But he continues to be nothing but quiet, while Devin Asiasi already has his hand above Dalton Keene. Not to mention the fact that Dalton Keene was limited both days of mandatory minicamp due to an injury. He didn't participate in anything significant. He's not rolling with the starting team offense. And guys, he's not even rolling with the second team offense. He is rolling with the scout team. And he didn't even play all that much with the scout team. He played in the positional drills and then played just a few snaps with the 3rd team scout team. It's very, very clear that he is highly behind Devin Asiasi, and Devin Asiasi hasn't exactly shown a lot, but he's shown a lot more than Dalton Keene at this point, especially when fighting for tight end 3. Now, the race isn't over. Dalton Keene will really have to come out healthy and show his ability during training camp and the preseason. But honestly, at this point, I think Devin Asiasi takes that spot from Dalton Keene. If Keene really shows out, I see the Patriots trading him. If he doesn't show out, I see them either IRing him, letting him show it out next offseason, or releasing him and putting him back on the practice squad. What are your guys' thoughts, though, on my winners and losers from Patriots' 2 days of mandatory minicamp? Let me know in the comment section below. Remember to leave a big like on this video and, of course, subscribe to the channel for all of your New England Patriots news. Like always, though, guys, I really appreciate you guys for watching. Please make sure to leave a big thumbs up on this, subscribe to the channel for all of your New England Patriots news, and comment in the comment section below because it helps me and the YouTube algorithm out so much when you guys show support and love to these videos. But like always, without further ado, you guys already know, go Pats.